So I think I've already heard this story, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Being on part of Ringling, we have a tradition, and that would be a birthday tradition of pie in
The
the
pie,
face.
getting pie. I was pied 3 times. But well, hang on a minute. I wasn't pied 3 times. I was pied every year that I was there, which was 7 years. I was pied 7 times. Yeah, and
I was
it's
going to
not
say, do you
nice
have?
because it's shaving cream and it goes up your nose and in your eyes and it tastes disgusting. So although it looks fun and you put on a smiley face, it's actually horrible. Um, but the clowns were brilliant, and on they also used to do the on Halloween they would do the ghost train car, and they would put so much effort into it. It was amazing. It was amazing. You go in one end of the train car and out the other, of course.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so that was something that I missed. That was something they used to do.
the haunted
Um,
car. Yep.
yeah. What I miss about Ringlings, so in Europe, the circus is very tight knit. You can work in Germany, you can work in all different countries, and you'll run into artists that you've worked with in the past, directors, floor crew, um, things like that. America, it's the same thing, of course. Circus people know one another, but Ringling was always very special because you have a lot of people that were not from the business at all. A lot of the floor crew, concessions, the dancers,
Chefs.
especially the clown alley, especially. And you would meet so many interesting people because circus people are very interesting, but we're all circus people. But Ringling was different because it really brought people from all sorts of different backgrounds: circus background, theatre background, people that weren't from circus at all. And you would have all sorts of different characters. We had a guy on the crew called Q. He was a black guy. He was a real kind of gangster type guy. He used to be a big drug dealer back in his day when he was younger. Then we had another guy called Animal. He was part of the floor crew. Great big tall guy. White guy, always grumpy old git he was, but we all loved him. We had another guy called Shorty. He'd beaten cancer. He'd beaten. He was a little scrawny guy, smoked like a chimney, drank, and but all characters. There's so many different characters, and then, like I said, the clown alley were always different characters, eccentric characters. Then you had the garderobe, and you would always have girls in there that would be from, or you have girls from like an indie background and girls from like a rock background, and it was, yeah, it was, and then you'd have the dancers. So there would always be Brazilian dancers. So you'd hear that annoying Portuguese accent. It got annoying in the end, I have to tell you. But I love them all to death. But when you hear that Portuguese spoken in Brazilian, you can hear it screaming in the corridor amongst the dressing rooms every single minute of the show. It just drive me up the wall. But no, but all great people, And Jonathan, you spoke with Jonathan. What a character! We had a guy called Kanat that did the Cossack. He was in charge of the Cossack act, and
Did
he
you
was a
ever
little
have
guy.
David Shipman?
Sorry.
Did you ever work with David Shipman?
No, but I knew him well. I ran into him, of course, because he worked on the other show. Met him, and then because Ringlings was the outfit that it would have been bringing producers from all different backgrounds. So every time they put on a show, there'd be a different producer from theatre or from TV, or even at one time we had an ex-ringmaster that was producing the show. So yeah, just a completely different circus life compared to Europe. Very, very familiar in many ways, but very different in others. And yeah, I just loved it. It was great, and I love the States as well, especially. So that to be all made it much more familiar. The thing about America as well, of course, English speaking country. I'd worked in mainland Europe, so Germany, France, Holland, Spain, Italy. We all speak English in the English business, but the countries that you're living in, when you go and do your shopping, or you have to go and buy a tire for a truck or change oil in your car, you're working with the people in that country that speak that language. So all of a sudden, I was in a country everyone spoke English, and so that made it much more, as an English person, that made it much more comfortable. So yeah, felt going to the States almost felt like coming home. It was yeah, loved it there.
So, what would be the big difference between working in the circus here and versus Europe? Like, I mean, like, is it the size of the crew or?
Yeah, there's many different things. I mean, I didn't live on the train. So if you're an artist, obviously living on the train is a huge difference to living in a trailer. I still traveled in a trailer. Um, the main difference for me is that I was really I was so in Europe. You have to worry about your next contract. Where you're going to work next year? Where you're going to work for the winter because your summer contract only lasts the summer. Then you've got to find a winter contract. Then you're going to find your next summer contract. Where am I buying meat for my animals? How am I getting the meat delivered? If an animal's sick, where's the vet in this city? Um, uh, if the truck breaks down, do you have enough money to get the engine replaced? If you've got a blowout, where do you go and get a tire? Because every time you're in a different city, you're not familiar with those places where you get things done. And basically, you are running a small business. When you have a big cat act in Europe, you've got to do all the I forgot about that as well as all the paperwork. Every time you go to a different city, all the paperwork with the animals, the inspections, it goes on and on and on and on and on. But on Ringlings, of course, they take care of all of that for you. I mean, for me, it was like a holiday working on Ringlings. I used to laugh when people would say this is a hard life here because I thought to myself, Jesus, the transport crew look after my transport. If I had a problem, the vet with the animals, the vet tech was there, and then the vet bills were taken over by the circus. I never had to deal with the what they called over there again, the fishery and wildlife. I forgot the name of them now. Anyway, I didn't have to
Ocean?
deal with it. Sorry,
Are you talking about the fish and wildlife, like
USDA. USDA. I didn't have
USDA?
to permitting. I didn't have to deal with the USDA. I didn't have to worry if a cage was broken. I could call the welders to come and weld it. It was just, it was a dream. It was a breeze. And while I was over there, I thought to myself, you know what? I should have signed that contract with Tim Holst in 2003 because this would have made my life a lot easier for all those years before I finally signed the contract. But now, the big difference is that you work for a company and they take care of all your problems. That's the biggest difference. Of course, there's difference as an artist. That's another thing. I didn't have to worry about my costume. They would make my costume the next year. Yeah, and like I said early on, Mr. Feld was very, very good to me. I think he was good to any artist that worked for him that he could see weren't trying to trick the company or to take we say in English, take the piss, take advantage. Um, the He appreciated people that did their job well, and he made sure you were looked after and you were catered for if that was the case. And I was very well looked after, and I don't have anything bad to say.
All
That
right.
didn't sound right finishing like that. But I had a great time. Sorry, didn't sound right that.
We can
If
edit
we were
things
doing
out.
this interview, I was doing this interview for Ringling, I would be after this interview, I'd be kicked into the what do they call that? The PR training room, and I'd have to brush up on a few things. Definitely no swearing, but seeing it's a podcast and I don't work for anyone anymore, we can talk candidly.
Yeah, no, no, felt was good. But we've been curious because we're trying to branch out to getting other performers and what we've seen in other countries and what we've heard versus here in America. So, are the animal activists like they are here in America everywhere else?
Right, so the animal activist started in England. That's where it all began. When I was as far as I can remember, like I said, I started properly helping with the animals when I was 12. But for as far back as I can remember, which I guess is probably 7, 8 years old, I see my father and my mother and the circus that we work with dealing with animal activists that long ago. So I'm 50 years old now. So what's that? That's 43 years. It all started in England. It got very bad in England. And as it started to get really bad, I actually left England and went to Ireland. In Ireland, it wasn't bad at all. I worked in Ireland, and just before I left Ireland, it started to get bad. But then I came to mainland Europe, and in mainland Europe, they had it, but not as bad as Ireland and England. And we worked mostly in Germany. In Germany, they have something called a Leitlinien, which is basically the laws that you have to stick to, the permitting, etc., to look after wild animals in the circus. And it's very, very strict in Germany. You have a state veterinarian, sorry, a state vet, and the local vet, and also the city vet, and also the state vet and local vet. They come every single week and do a full inspection. They inspect everything, inspect the animals, how you keep the food, they watch you train. And this happens every single week in every single city. And then they sign a book, a big folder. They make all their comments about the care, the food, if there's anything that needs to be changed, and you have a certain amount of time to change it. And when you go to the next city, you're already in the computer. The next vet sees the remarks from the last vet, checks your book, make sure you've changed the things. If you haven't changed the things, you get a fine or your license taken off you and you can't work. Anyway, for that reason, with Germany being as strict as it is, it's for that reason that you can still work with big cats in Germany, as my brother is, because the laws are so strict. It's very difficult to do it wrong. It's very difficult for somebody to just try and be a lion trainer with very little knowledge and not look after the animals correctly. And for that reason, it's very difficult for the country to ban because you're doing everything correctly. Anyway, so we worked in Europe that way, and we didn't really have much problem with the animal activists. We did have problems over the years. I mean, I've seen them set fire to the tent, throw acid on trucks, try and let the animals out. I've seen all those things, but it didn't happen frequently. And luckily never happened to me. I seen it happen in England on my father's show. We had some run-ins. And then when I got to America, they did have big problems with the animal rights, but we were shielded from that. You know, we didn't have to deal with the police. We didn't have to deal with the activists. Somebody else in the company did that. We were basically shielded from it all, and I knew how bad it was, and I knew it was going on, but I never had any problems because I never run into those people. The most likely time you would run into those people would be in certain states, California especially, during the elephant walk. But our animals, the big cats, were always on the road, so we'd arrive at a lot, unload in the lot. The security fence was up. If we were in a building, it was even more safe. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, now at this point, the animal activists are just terrible all over the world. They're really bad. I mean, even here in Germany. But it comes and goes. You know, some years are better than others. Like we've had a few very quiet years. This year they were quite vocal and active, but now they've gone quiet again. So, you know, this whole argument, I've listened to it and I've been in it and I've contributed to it when I've had interviews with the press over the years. I've said my piece. I've sat down with him and an animal activist in studios all over the world and
Wow.
had debates. And you know, I'm over it. You know, now when somebody comes and they've got an opinion about it, I just say, yeah, okay, that's your opinion. I don't really care anymore. You know, I've been very lucky to work all over the world. I'm not saying that just because I'm not really touring with the circus that I don't care anymore. It's just I've put so much into it and so much effort that now where I am now, I work in the Krona farm, which is the farm where Circus Krona retired all of their hoofed stock. So camels, horses, especially horses, zebras, for many years. It was always a private resident owned by the Krona family. During Corona, everything was cancelled worldwide. I was working in Germany on a different circus, and my brother and his wife, they now own and run Circus Krona. And they said, why don't you come to the Krona farm in the little town called Westling outside of Munich with your cats during the Corona period, and when it's finished, you can go out on tour again. At least you've got somewhere to stay. We said, okay, we came here. As the rules and regulations relaxed, they said, look, you've got your animals here. We've got our animals here. Why don't we open the gates to Krona Farm? First time in 120 years. The farm's been here 120 years. And let the public from Munich, who are very familiar with Circus Krona because they have the Krona Bow, the main building, the circus building, Circus Krona in Munich. Why don't we let our audience that comes to visit us every winter come and see the animals in the Krona farm just out of Munich? And because it was outside, it's an outdoor event, we were allowed to have a smaller group of people that would pay a certain amount of money, come and have a look around the farm. It would be it would be a guided tour, sorry, of the farm. We'd explain what the farm is, why it's here. what it's been doing for the last 120 years. And it would finish with me, with my big cats, doing a training session where I would basically teach the public how we train big cats. And it was a question and answer thing during and after the training session. And we did that for about a year and a half. It was very successful. As the rules relaxed, because we would have a group of people, they'd stay for 2 hours, they would leave, and then another group of people would come. As the rules relaxed and everything was free to start and open again, Circus Corona went back out on tour. And my brother and his wife, Jana, they said, look, you can go back on tour, or if you want, we're going to keep Corona Farm open. If you like, you can run it and stay with your big cats, and we'll open it from 10 in the morning till 6 in the evening. People can stay all day long, and we'll do a tour once a day at 2 o'clock, and you do your big cat training session. So we added a few things to it. We had the bouncy castles. People can buy food to feed the animals. We have a few more animals here that don't go on tour anymore. And we have a few little shows that go on. Some activities for the children to do, and yeah, it's been very successful actually. So anyway, what I was trying to say is, now I'm not involved in the circus anymore, but I still work with my big cats, doing something very similar to what I did in the circus. I just don't travel anymore. And so what I was trying to say is, even though I'm not involved in the circus, it's not like I've said, I'm not involved in the circus business anymore, I don't care about this whole animal argument. It's more important for me now that the people that come to see us at the farm buy that ticket, come in to see the animals, that they go away happy, because they come back again and they do buy tickets. We have repeat visitors. And so for me, it's not important now to try and change everybody's opinion in the world, fight with these guys and argue with these guys that don't like what we're doing. What's more important to me is that the people that come, that buy the ticket, that is what allows us to feed the animals, house the animals, and pay us a wage so we can look after our families. As long as they're happy, I'm not really interested in the argument anymore. You know, I'm done with it. I've argued it for years, and I don't really care about people's opinions or what they think about it. I just get on doing what I'm doing, as long as the people are happy that come to see us.
Well, I'm gonna. I'd like to share my opinion on it because I've seen it
Yeah, go
firsthand
ahead. Of
working for
course.
Ring. You're our first animal trainer on the show, so um, we want to show what we saw working for the circus. You know that the animals were taken care of way better than the humans were, in a lot of
Really,
circumstances.
especially because a lot of people weren't happy with their living accommodations. I can tell you that much. It was difficult to live on the train.
Well, yeah, when you get a room, yeah, the coffin, yep.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but no, we just wanted to show that side that that people need to understand that circuses actually love their animals more than I think a lot of people understand.
Definitely, 100%.
So that's why I want to touch that little bit with there for a second. So, um,
Yeah, well, that's nice of you to say. Good to point out.
oh yeah. Um, Also, so you're at a farm in just outside of, where'd you say, in Germany, Munich?
Just outside of Munich, so south of Germany. Uh, it's a beautiful part of the country. It's the Bavarian forest. It's basically on the foothills of the Alps. Um, the farm is amazing. It's like I said, it's situated in the middle of the Bavarian forest. It's green, green, green. It's a small town. Uh, Everybody knows everybody. My children go to school here. One of them's in school, sorry, the other one's still in kindergarten. Um, yeah, it's a great place to live. We're very fortunate. Um, Always been very lucky with my career. We had a very good run in Europe. We went to America. We had a good run in America. They closed. I landed on my feet with some really good contracts back in Europe, which I think really we managed to get because we left a very good. I left a very good reputation behind. So, of course, and a lot of the directors wanted to be the first to have Alexander returning from Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey in their show, which was good for me. And then Corona came, which was a disaster, but very lucky again that my brother and his wife offered us the chance to stay here. After Corona, everything changed with the whole animal scene and animals in circus. Even if I wanted to work my animals in circus after Corona. It would have been very difficult to work on a decent show because all the good shows basically have said, they can't carry on touring with animals. The only show you could tour on really that is still good with animals would be Corona, but of course my brother's on Circus Corona with his act. So, like I said, very lucky that we had the offer to work here at Corona, and very lucky that it actually became a good, a successful business, the Corona Farm, because it stayed open and that gave us work now for. We've been here, I think 6 years now. We've been here, yeah, 6 years since Corona. This is our sixth year. Um, and again, a great place. I'm lucky. Corona look after my animals. They pay for my vet bills. I don't have to worry about ordering meat. We don't travel anymore, so I haven't got to worry about the paperwork, what paperwork we need. The Corona office take care of that. I mean, it's a lot of hard work looking after the farm. We're a small crew. I've become a very good gardener, something I never knew I would say. I have to take care of the grounds. But you know what's really interesting from being a person that's traveled my whole life to living in I mean, it's called a farm, but it's not really a farm in the traditional sense. But from living in the country lifestyle, is you get to see the seasons from the same place. And what's really interesting, it's probably a bit boring for most people, is you get to see the seasons of the plants and the seasons of the animals. You get to know when the birds are laying their eggs. You know when it's spring. You know when it's because I didn't realize that birds mate a couple of times a year and they build their nests a couple of times a year or return to their nests a couple of times a year. We know when the bees are back. We know where the hornets are nesting. We know when the insect seasons are. We know when there's going to be these certain little bugs that really annoy you that are black about that long. They crawl all over you, but we know they're only there for a couple of weeks. But after them, we know that it's mosquito season, and then before that, we know when it's the worst wasp season. We know when the wasps are the most dangerous because the apples fall off the apple trees. They rot on the ground. The apples eat the wasps eat the rotten apples that ferment into alcohol, cider. So the wasps are drunk and they go around in everybody. So we know when that time's coming. So yeah, it's been really interesting. And I've watched my kids grow up and make friends and go to school and make proper friends because in the circus business you make friends, but if you're lucky, you might stay with people for a couple of seasons, but then they move on to a different show. You might meet up with them later on, but they've made really good friends. So yeah, always been very lucky, and blessed, very blessed.
So it must be
I've
weird for
had
you to
a
be
lot of
in
hard
one.
times along the way, but been lucky. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was saying, so it must be weird because you've traveled so much of your life to actually be able to see multiple seasons from one tree.
Exactly, definitely. I know every single tree on the property as well, which is odd. It's 12 hectares. I'm not too sure what that is in acres, but it's a very large property. Um, and traveling when we first stopped because of Corona, everybody was forced to stop. It was actually really nice. It was like everybody was just running. It was a rat race for a long time. Everybody's too hectic, no time for anything. All of a sudden, we were all forced to stop. I think everybody all over the world, no matter what you were doing, everybody realized, we worked too hard. We need to take it more easy. We need to take a breather. Unfortunately, that was short lived because after Corona, everybody was just mad again. But
Yeah.
I, yeah, I really enjoyed the first year of Corona. Well, first 6 months. Then I started to get itchy feet for a couple of years. I missed being on the road. Um, Now I still miss it, but not as much as I did. I think I'm more settled now. I've got used to being in one place. I'm not too fussed about going on tour. When I think about having to move every week because in Europe's every week, in America and some places every day. In Europe, in some circuses every day. But I was fortunate enough to work on shows that basically move once a week. So once a week, moving and like I said, dealing with the permitting and yeah, and just late nights and pulling on and off muddy lots and the weather and. Now I look at it and I think, oh, I don't think I want to do that anymore. So yeah, we had a good
Would
run.
you ever go back? Would you ever go back out on for a short tour with your cats?
So the last time I worked with my cats was here at Dresden Weihnachts Winter Circus. Talking German, sorry. In 2023, Christmas 22-23. That was the last performance. Um, then and since then, I haven't worked with my big cats in a circus. I've been offered a few times, but once I said I was retired, I decided that was it. I might have to work this winter to replace my nephew um, for a contract that he might have to fulfill because he normally works in the Christmas circus in the Kronenbau, and they always have a big cat act in the Kronenbau. And so I might have to replace him for a very short period, probably just a couple of weeks. So I might be coming out of retirement for a couple of weeks for Christmas in Germany. But that aside, not I haven't worked with my cats since then, but my wife and I, Katie, who you spoke to,
Yep.
she's already been on the podcast. We actually run our own Christmas circus in Spain, in her home city. This will be our fourth year running that. It's been very difficult because the Christmas circus in Spain, other than Madrid and Valencia, that are the main cities, is not very well known at Christmas. Christmas circus is very difficult in that part of the world. We've had to start something completely new. We've had to prove ourselves to the city council that we are a solid, um, well-run, trustworthy company that pays all of our bills and brings a good show to the city. And slowly, that has become more obvious to them, and they've come more on board. Last year was the first year that they actually gave us a small grant, and this year we've applied for a few more. We hope we get them, but we've unfortunately lost a lot of money trying to make this dream work. It's always been my dream to have my own show one day, and I thought maybe the easiest way is to just do a Christmas circus and not go out on tour. Unfortunately, I was wrong. It's been very difficult, but we're still battling on. We're still trying to make it work. Lots of stories about how we did all of that and how we tried to pull that off. But yeah, we're going to attempt again this winter. Hopefully, it goes well. Our audiences have improved year on year. The numbers increase. Unfortunately, they're not where they need to be. But fingers crossed, we're going to get there in the end.
Very nice. What's the circus called?
So it's the name of the city. The city is called Ijon. It's north of Spain. So it's called, if you translate it, it's called Christmas Circus of Ijon, Circo de Navidad Ijon, Spanish. Um, and that runs from the beginning of December until the first week of January. It's a short period. Christmas Circus in Germany is very well received. Christmas Circus period is better than the summer period. It's the case also in France and Holland. Um, and also, like I said, in certain cities in Spain, but we're trying something very new in a very new city. Yeah, so fingers crossed.
What kind of show is it?
Non-animal, very difficult to work with animals now in any part of Europe. We also wouldn't get the decent, nice lot that we have in the city. So unfortunately, no animals. We hope in the future maybe we can bring perhaps a parrot act or a dog act later on, but we don't want to upset anybody or cause ourselves any problems at the moment while we trying to get established. But other than that, it's a traditional circus. Anything else you'd see in a traditional circus? We've had the Globe of Death, jugglers, plate spinners, clowns. What do you call the clown acts with the water in America? We call it a slosh act in English. I don't know what you call it in America. I can't remember now. You might know. Do you know?
I believe it's just a water act,
Yeah.
like
Anyway, so there you go.
like a soap act.
Yeah, there you go, Sopak. There you go. We have a ringmaster. We only have a drummer at the moment with playback music. We hope to have a full orchestra one day. Um, what else? The Wheel of Death we have this year. Strap act, trapeze act. We had a trapeze act last year from South America. From where were they from? They were from where were they from? Buenos Aires. They were from. From Chile. Sorry, they're from Chile. We've had the Argentinian Devils with the bowlers. Yeah, the list goes on and on. Anything you'd expect to see in a circus, unfortunately, except for the animals.
Okay. Okay. All right. And is this going to be you're just going to build this show, and or is this going to be a hopeful start
Well,
of?
we got some ideas in the pipeline. Unfortunately, we thought this would be a bigger success than it has been, faster than it has been. It has been very successful audience-wise because the audience keep coming and they say they're coming every year, and they do come every year. Like I said, we've done 3 years so far, and everybody that's come the previous year have come back again, plus more people. So yeah, we definitely want to build on it. But I've always had an idea for another kind of show that I want to do, which we plan to do hopefully one day, but we have to make this one work first. And um, I'm a real circus guy. I would love, even as an old man, to travel a little circus around the country in the Bavarian countryside or even the English countryside. My dream would be to run a little circus with the canvas tent and the old trucks. And I just I'm in love with the circus, a proper band. In a perfect world, if I was a very wealthy person, I would have a nice little successful, hopefully successful, tenting show, and I would try to tour with that. And yeah, but we have to try and make one step at a time. We have to try and make this Christmas circus work first, and who knows, perhaps later on we can do that as well. The only drawback, really, the setback for me is that um, the best thing that's happened for me, or one of the best things that's happened for me and my wife and our family and our boys, is the fact that they're having such a great education, staying in one place
Oh
here
yeah.
in Germany. So you can't always think about yourself. You've got to think about your family and your children. So that comes first. And trying to run a circus and travel around the country or Europe or wherever it may be, um, wouldn't really work hand in hand with trying to give my children a good education. Which is why the Christmas circus thing is kind of it's a compromise. At least we can do that in the winter when they're not at school, and I get to do that, and they still get to get an education.
So, have you only done cats for circus?
No, 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 no. So when I first began, I was a clown. Um, First clowning I ever did, I was 6 years old with a friend of my father's on a circus that he was working at as a lion trainer. Um, Later on, I worked in my father's circus because the clown ran away in the night. The clowns ran away in the middle of the night. They weren't getting paid. It was during those hard years when we had our own show. So me and my friend, Italian guy, um, who was the husband of the Cossack riders we had at the time, we put our hands up and said, "Oh, we're doing everything else." At the time, I was doing the cats, I was training the tigers, I was the electrician, I was building up and pulling down the tent, I was driving, I was cleaning the toilets, I was doing the advertising, handing out the tickets. The list goes on. And so why not be a clown as well? So me and my friend at the time, we said, all right, we'll be the clowns. We're going to do the boxing routine. You need names. What's your names going to be? So I had the worst clown name ever, which was given to me by my father because when I was little, that was my clown name. So my clown name was Fumbles. I don't know why I was called Fumbles. To me, sounds like a bit of a not the right clown name to give to a fully grown man. Fumbles. It sounds a bit odd. Anyway, so then my Italian friend said, "Well, what's my clown name?" So I said, "We're going to call you Salami. You're Italian." So we were called Fumbles and Salami. And we were the clowns on my father's show. We had an amazing time. We used to work every show. We would laugh our heads off. We would have a great time. I don't think the audience laughed as much as us, but we had a great time. Anyway, so yeah, I was a clown. I did stilt walking. I did some juggling. There was a small period of time where my father managed to land a very good 4-part TV series in England when we worked together with Jerry Cottle about me and my brother and circus life. So it followed us how we were educated because on the circus we had a school bus. They'd rip the seats out of it and turned it into a traveling school, and we had a teacher that used to travel with the circus. So they wanted to follow how we were educated and then how life was after school, because obviously the school bus was on the circus. The minute they opened the door and we left school, we were in the circus. The circus tent was outside. And for that 4-part TV series, my dad said, we're going to pretend that you're learning to do a trampoline act and we're going to debut it in the circus ring as the last part of the 4-part TV series. It was crap. We were terrible. The act was really bad. We thought we were great, and we insisted that my father keep the act in the show because we were so good. We were taught how to do this trampoline act by an old clown. We had to dressed up as Frenchmen for some reason. So it was it was really stereotyped. We had black tight trousers. We wore a red and white striped shirt, berets, and pretend onions round our neck. The biggest trick in the act was me. I did a back somersault. The act was terrible. Anyway, so yeah, so that was one act that we did. Unfortunately, the show was too long, and the act had to be taken out because my father said it was too long. The show, of course, it was terrible, but we thought we were great. Um, then what else? Oh, later on, I did the slosh act with the clowns that we had. Oh, that's another story. So I don't know how long we've got. How long have we been already? Anyway, so we were so many years ago when my father first joined Jerry Coddle's circus. It became very successful because my father, instead of booking the circus on the lots that the traditional circus used to go in, which were basically they were basically parks in the middle of the city, grass parks, beautiful parks. My dad said, no, we need to be in the inner city and get to the crowds that don't normally get to see the circus. So we would do cities like Sheffield and Birmingham, Leicester, rough parts of London. And my father would always end up putting the circus on a demolition site. It was either a block of flats or a factory that had just been torn down and the foundation was still there. And somehow they would build the circus up amongst this demolition site. And because you were in a completely different site, right in the center of the city, sometimes like right on the main street, we did a lot of good business. It was really good business during those years with Jerry Cottle. Later on, fast forward a few years, because we had animals, you weren't allowed to go into the city. You had to work on farmers' fields. But this one winter, when I was doing the clown act as a slosh act, my father managed to get one of these building sites again in the middle of the city in Birmingham. And he said, look, let's do it for Christmas. I think it's going to be successful. It was a time when we had no money. Business was really bad. And we said, okay, let's give it a go. Anyway, we went to this place in the middle of the winter. It was freezing cold. It was terrible. And we only had a very small heater to heat up the tent. So we said, we need to get a new heater for this winter weather. It's terrible. The audience are going to be pissed off that they're sitting in a cold tent. What can we do? So anyway, at the time, we had a guy with us called Robert Fawcett from an old circus family. He was the mechanic on the show, tent master and everything. And there was a factory next door that was being demolished, and it had an old heating system in it run by this great big old metal heater that ran off diesel. And I found it, and I said to Robert, I said, why don't we see if we can get that old heater working and we could use it to heat the tent? He said, no, that's not a bad idea. So we got this old heater out. He got it running. Of course, he had to mess around with it a little bit. There was black smoke coming out of it at first and everything. But he got it running. And the smoke went out one end as it sat outside. And the fan blew the hot air in from the other side. And it worked really good for about 3 days. And then I was in one show and we're working and we're doing the slosh act. And start to see this black blue smoke slowly descending from the top of the tent through all
Oh
the
no.
par cans that are in the ring. And I'm thinking, where's all that smoke coming from? Anyway, we're doing the clown act and hey, and throwing the soap and doing the water. And this smoke starts to get lower and lower and lower. And then I look into the audience and I see the audience on the front row and they've all got these little black lines on their nose. And I realized that everybody's breathing in this sooty smoke. That's this heater for some reason has reversed. And instead of blowing the exhaust fumes
Oh
out of the
no.
top of the chimney, is blowing the hot air and all of the exhaust fumes into the tent. So my father's panicking and the audience are getting annoyed because of this black smoke. So he decides the only way to fix this problem is to drop all the canvas on the side of the tent and let all the smoke out. Of course, the circus must go on. It doesn't stop. So we're in the center of the ring, covered in soap and water. It's
Oh,
about,
no.
it must be at least 0 degrees, probably less, because they've just let down the wallings. All the hot air's gone and all the cold air's come in. And we're there. And by the end of the act, we've got wet hair, we've got ties on our, our ties on, and these kind of overalls, and everything is solid like cardboard. Our hair, our ties, because we're frozen solid. The soap frozen solid. We're frozen solid. Anyway, so that's another story. So we ended up going out of the tent at the end of the act and getting in the warm shower, trying to defrost. And the guys had to put the wallings back up on the tent. The audience wasn't happy because we couldn't put the heater back on. They had to watch the rest of the show in the cold. And yeah, just another disastrous story of things that went on back in the day.
Wow.
I got lots of
All
those
right.
stories.
Well,
I could
we
just,
are running.
we're
Go
running
ahead.
late. I don't want to go over time.
Oh, it's fine. We can always have you back on. Um,
Yeah, no problem. Whatever you like. Do you want to
so,
hear a story of a lion by the cats? I can tell you that quickly. I've been Norman, as a lion trainer. It's not something you boast about because my father always said, if you're a good boxer, you don't have a nose like that, and if you're a good lion trainer, you don't get caught. But unfortunately, I got caught in Germany, in East Germany, when I returned back from Ringlings by one of my lions. So I don't know if that's a story you want to hear quickly or not. I don't normally tell
yeah,
those
go ahead.
stories, but my career's been and gone, so it doesn't matter anymore.
What happened?
So I was working in East Germany on a circus here in Germany in 2018. And it was those cats there actually. So if you ever have an accident or with the cats, it's always your fault. It's never the cat's fault. I've learned over the years from a few accidents that I've had, and specifically this one, which was a bad one, that it's always your fault. So anyway, yeah, so I worked after the intermission. The band would play, the audience would come back into the tent, the lights would be dark, and during this dark moment, the cats would come into the ring. Before the show, I had a lioness. Her name is called Marley, and she wasn't right. I could tell there was something wrong with her. She didn't feel good, and for a good few weeks, I always thought there was something wrong with her stomach, but it would come and go. Um, and I made an appointment with my vet to come down and do an ultrasound, but she has to be knocked out for that, and it's quite a big deal because you have to have a proper anaesthetist to knock out a lion. So it was all scheduled to be done. And I thought, okay, well, she's most of the time she's good, so I'll carry on working her. But this particular day, she wasn't good, and I made the mistake of saying, okay, she can work. So anyway, the cats all came in the ring in the blackout, and as she came in, I could hear her coming down the tunnel making some strange noises. And she came and she ran straight past me, straight to a place. But when she got to a place, she was like doing a really low groan, like ooh, but not normal, something strange. And I thought to myself straight away, I said, I shouldn't have put her in. I've made a mistake. I know what I'll do. The first trick was when all the lights would come on and all the animals would have moved to the pyramid, this position here, and I would take this compliment here, and then they would go off the pyramid back to the side seats. That's their seats where they sit around. And I said to myself, okay, I'll put her on the pyramid. As soon as the pyramid is finished, I'll put her back to her side seat. She sat right there, and I'll send her out. I'll let her go home. So I did that, put her back on a seat, and then I went to send her out. And her next cue would she would come off her side seat here, and she would stand about there. When she was stood there, there was another lion sat next to her, and that lion would come down and she would jump. They would jump over each other all around the ring. It was called the leapfrog. So when I went to her after the pyramid to say you can leave, she thought I was telling her to come down for the trick, which she would normally perform next. And I said, no, 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 it's not the trick, because then the other lion came down. So I sent them back to their places, and I said, okay, you can leave. And when I was telling her to leave, she thought that I wanted to come down to do the trick again. But she didn't want to do the trick because she didn't feel right, and I was trying to say you could leave. Anyway, this happened 3 times that I was telling her to leave, and she wouldn't leave, and I had to send her back to a seat. So on the fourth time, instead of coming down, she jumped from there right to the center of the ring like a torpedo and landed on top of me, bit me in the shoulder, and then ran off. And I thought, oh, that was lucky. I need to get up. These thoughts are going. So I got up really quick, and I said she could leave, um, but she didn't leave. She came again, and she knocked me down again. Luckily, she
Oh,
ran off
wow.
again. Thought to myself, if I don't get up now, if she comes a third time, I'm finished. And she came a third time, and she got on me, and she bit me in the leg. She ripped my buttocks. She ripped underneath both armpits, the backs of my shoulders. It was bad. Somehow, I managed to kick her off, and I used to laugh. I laughed actually because my brother and I used to play a game when we were younger, where we'd sit on the couch and we would kick each other with our feet to try and knock each other off the couch. And I was saying to my brother, I said, you know what? It was a bit like that game we used to play. I was trying to kick the lion off me. Anyway, I managed to get her off me. I managed to get up. My wife opened the door at the back there, and the lion ran down the chute, and she ran out, and she was gone. Luckily, it didn't affect the rest of the animals. They all stayed on their seats. I was ripped to shreds. My costume was ripped to shreds. But I tried to play it down to the audience as if it wasn't that bad, because it happened very quickly. The audience wasn't too sure what really went on. So I said to my wife, get my dressing gown. So I put my dressing gown on, and I finished the whole act, tried to play it down because I didn't want to have any bad publicity with the animal rights lot. Luckily, nothing really came of it. Nobody in the audience, people in the audience thought it was part of the act. I sent all the animals out at the end of the act. I went outside. Um, as I went past the beast wagon outside, this lion was trying to rip the bars down to get out. She wanted to get me again. Anyway, I got to my trailer. I took off my shoes. My costume shoes were full of blood. I went straight to the hospital. I got there, and they basically put me to sleep. I was laid out on a slab, like on a slab, on a metal table. I remember when they first put me to sleep, it was cold. I didn't have anything on, of course. They had to strip me naked. They cleaned me all off, and then they spent 4 hours sewing me up. Um, I was supposed to stay in hospital for 2 weeks, refused to stay for 2 weeks. I came out early. I think I came out after 3 days. I had all the drains in me and bottles collecting all of the fluids. But that was a very lucky escape because she could have got my throat because she was right there. The doctor said that she missed my main artery in my leg by literally 5 millimeters, like half a centimeter. And if she'd got that while I was doing the rest of the act, I would have bled out and not even realized and fainted. And then I would have been a cage full of tigers, fainted, and amongst them all. Um, and that lioness, it wasn't her fault. I knew it wasn't her fault, so I didn't want to get rid of her. It was my fault completely. What we did actually, we put her to sleep as scheduled 2 weeks later. As I thought, she had problems with her ovaries. She basically had tumors on her ovaries. We removed her ovaries completely. And for a whole year, I didn't work with her once. Slowly, I just got back being around her from outside. And eventually, after one whole year, I put her back in, and she worked perfect, never a problem again. And I still work her to this day. I work her here on the farm. But again, like I said, completely my fault. And I've had a few near scrapes, nothing like that, but was always my fault. Always my fault. So there you
Wow.
go. I thought I'd tell you a little story.
Yeah,
Makes
no,
it more
that's
interesting. Normally, people just want to hear about all the good stuff, and most circus artists sit here and tell you how great they are. But I thought, let's make it a bit more interesting, right?
no, yeah, no, 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 that's insane. So you did the whole show bleeding?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I
Like
did. I
tigers
was.
can smell blood?
I'm not, it's the adrenaline. It was the adrenaline more than anything. I'm sure if I'd looked down and had a proper look at how opened up I was, I wouldn't have done it. But my thing was more two things. It was more I wanted to play it down for the audience. It would be horrible for little children to have come to the show, seen that, and thought, and then I didn't want them to go. I wanted to play it down for the audience, and secondly, I wanted the rest of the cats to think nothing had happened either. I didn't want them getting an idea that, oh, I'm going to have a go as well. I'm going to try that next. So I just played it down for those two reasons. And like I said, this surge of adrenaline, I didn't feel any pain or anything. All the pain came much later on, the day after I woke up from the anesthetic, the
Wow.
side effects of the anesthetic. Then I started to feel the pain, of course. What's strange is the pain from that is not the cut, and it's not the bite. It's the bruising from the power of the
The
paw when it
impact.
hits you and makes, yeah, the impact, because they're so solid, you know. And when they hit you, it's the bruising from that. The claw hurts more from the bruise than the actual cut. And the bites are, I mean, of course they're painful, but nothing like the power that it's like a punch. It's like being punched really hard, but there's a claw on the end. That's the most pain. And I've always been very fortunate, actually, because a tiger's claw is full of bacteria. You can imagine they raw meat, they hold on to that raw meat.
Oh, yeah.
They walk on the floor, we keep their areas where they live clean, but like all animals, they occasionally walk into, their poop and their pee. So it's a breeding ground for bacteria. And when they claw you, all that bacteria goes into your skin. But I've always been very fortunate. Whenever I've had a claw, I've never had an infection. And most people do get an infection. So most people say the infection is the worst thing, then the impact. I never got an infection. I just felt that impact. It was always the sorest thing for me.
Oof. All right. Well, we are
How long
coming
have
up
we
at the end
been?
of the
2 hours
show.
or more? Sorry,
2
talking over you.
hours. 2 hours.
Okay, good.
Um, so if you were to give any young circus performer or anyone advice that came to you and said, "I wanna do what you're doing or be in the circus," what would be the best advice you can give them?
The best advice to anybody, that doesn't matter if you've been a lion trainer, a trapeze artist, a juggler, hand balancer, and so on. Because I have good friends in all disciplines, and we're all the same. We don't enjoy the moment. We're too busy trying to do what we do perfect. We do enjoy it. We get an adrenaline. We enjoy a good audience, but we don't enjoy it enough. Um, like I said, we're too busy trying to work perfect every show. We all get too upset and too angry and too worked up if a show doesn't go right. And looking back on my career, I should have enjoyed it a lot more. Um, and so, to any upcoming new artist, um, looking back, I would do it all again. All that working in the freezing cold where you can't feel your fingers and lifting up heavy bins, trying to get them into the containers. Then they're full of mud and backache, and waking up in the morning with a sore throat because you've got the cold and you're spitting blood, but you've still got to work. And the late nights and the driving and the hot days and the days when you're working in a tent and there's no audience. I'd do it all again. Definitely. It's the best life you can have. I've seen so much. I met my wife, had two beautiful kids, met my first wife, had a beautiful daughter, worked all over the world, but didn't enjoy it enough. And so, if I could give any advice to any artist, it's enjoy it more, and don't
Enjoy the
get
moment.
so worked up if the show doesn't go right. There you go. A bit of advice if it helps.
Perfect. All right. Well, Alex, thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
You're
We
very welcome.
appreciate having you on. And
You're
until
welcome. Oh,
next time, we'll see you down the road.
see you down the road. That's it. Learn that one in America. We don't say that over here in Europe. See you down the road. Take care. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.